let's jump into the podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stream of Thought. Today's episode is a special one because our guest wear many hats. She is an employment specialist, an amazing author, a passionate storyteller, and a skilled linguist. Let's welcome Hope and let's hear her journey of settling in Finland and explore more about Finnish job market from her own experience. Hi, Hope. We are honored to have you at Stream of Thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's start with a little bit about yourself. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey of moving to Finland.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much, Hassan, for this opportunity to be here with you. It's my pleasure. My name is Hope. I am born in Nigeria, and I have been living in Finland for the past 13 years. Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am an author. My first novel was published last year in Finland here. I am also a social care professional, socionomy in Finnish, and I currently work as an employment specialist at Vantan Employment Services. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. Amazing, amazing. We are honored to have you. So 13 years. Wow. I mean, it's a long time. Um, how do you think what was did you come for your study purposes, or did you come directly for employment, or what was the motive of moving to Finland?
Well, like a good number of people who come to Finland, I came based on family ties.
Okay, all right.
Yes, so my spouse was a researcher at
Mm,
a university in Espoo, and
mm.
we came together as family.
Okay, okay, good to hear, good to hear. So, so you came in like 13 years ago. How was things at that time, and how are things now? What was your first impression when you had your first step in Finland?
Well, we came to Finland in the peak of winter. So my
Oh,
first experience was the very cold weather. And to think that we moved from South Africa on a sunny afternoon to land in Finland the next day morning with many centimeters of snow. So that was the biggest shock when we arrived about 13 years ago.
okay, yeah. And food and other things. I mean, cultural shock. How were things different from your home country? Were you able to settle in quickly?
Well, I guess there has been a lot of talk about the fate of spouses who come based on family tie. So
Mm.
I happen to be also affected at that time in the sense that your spouse comes to Finland, he has a job, but you, that is the spouse, who follows your spouse, then you actually have nothing, at least from the very beginning, and you really have to start from zero. So that was my situation when we arrived. So I, of course, had already a university education from the University of Nigeria, but I didn't have language skills, and I didn't, that is Finnish language skills, and I didn't have a job waiting for me here. So I had to struggle and start from the very basic to build my career in Finland.
So I know it's a different story and struggle for everyone, and um, for so I would like to break down your story a bit as well as bit by bit, so listeners can understand and connect with your story more. So when you came for spouse visa, did you start integration course with the employment services and started learning language, or did you go um, for higher education?
Well, I wish I did both, but I actually did none.
Okay.
Yeah. When we arrived, we had a 5 months old baby, and
Okay.
that meant that I had to be for a while at home taking care of the baby. And That's also led to having more babies. So it meant that I was home for even longer time. So
Mm,
most of the Finnish language that I learned, even up to date, the basics that I learned were actually self-study
mm,
and through the help of Finnish friends.
mm. So, like you were busy with the family for many years, so you were not able to join integration services or do some other educational stuff. But you might had that feeling of that you want to get a job, and after all the family duties, you want to settle and find a job and start a career in Finland. So, what was your first impression about the job market in Finland as a foreigner? And did you think that what should be your first step that you want to take for making your career in Finland?
Well, when we arrived, and even though I had a little baby who was under 1 year old, I was very optimistic and also very ambitious. Because back home in Nigeria, you could go to work even though you had a 4, 5 months old baby. But in Finland, I got to know later that the child needs to be at least 9 months old. So when we arrived, I actually started already sending applications before arriving to Finland. I was sending applications based on my qualification and based on my skill previously. In Nigeria, I studied English and literature at the University of Nigeria, and I worked briefly as a teacher at a nursery school. So I started applying for teaching positions at kindergartens, English speaking kindergartens, as well as other relevant job positions. But as you would guess, I got silence as a
Mm,
response to my application. So it was a first shock for me, even though I wasn't actually ready to start working at that time. But I can't remember how many applications I sent, but there were quite many, and I actually got zero response. So it kind of surprised me that, okay, what would be my future here if I have sent all of these applications based on what I think I could do, but got zero response? What would happen in the future when I actually was ready to go into the job market? So that was the
mm,
first
mm,
shock for me.
mm. So, yeah, it's understandable. Like, everyone, I think, of us goes through the same thing. But when you started applying and when you thought that it's not easy without some like polishing your skills or learning language, what was your first impression that where you would like to start polishing your skills, getting more education, or learning Finnish language, or what was the first step that you took to reach at the position where you are at now?
Well, I actually took many steps. Uh, First, after I sent applications while I was still home with the little baby and got no response, then I felt that, okay, I had a bachelor's degree that I could go for my master's.
Mm,
And then I tried a few times also to get into the courses that are offered in English, but it was a bit long process. I needed to write TOEFL. Was it TOEFL that it's called? I had to write like to show my English language skills, even
mm,
though I had studied in English all my life and all of that. So that was a setback. But I eventually wrote the test and passed. But then other things also came within the process, and I didn't go ahead to pursue my master's in Finland. And then during this period, I got more children, and it meant that I had my hands full at that moment. And then, but even during that time, I started to learn Finnish language, like independently, and also with Finnish friends.
mm,
And this helped me a lot because then eventually, when I was, so to say, ready for the job market, I actually didn't have integration rights anymore. So even if I had wanted to
mm,
go for an intensive Finnish course, I wouldn't have got it. So,
mm,
but fortunately, I already had some Finnish language skills, and that was enough for me to apply to study at the University of Applied Sciences. So I applied to study social services socionomy in
Mhm.
Finnish, in English language, but then you needed also to have at least B1 at least, B1 level to be able to get in because there was also a Finnish language test. So
Mm,
I got in after a few attempts and I studied. And while I was studying, I fortunately got like a few project-based part-time jobs. And through that, I actually started like gaining more experience on how to work in Finland. Of course, I was working partly in English and partly in Finnish, and some of the colleagues were also English speaking and also Finnish speaking. So I could use my Finnish language and English language at the same time.
mm,
And during that process, I also started getting active with organizations. I became a volunteer for some projects that I was really interested in that were very important to me. For example, leading family clubs for mother and child groups. That was one
mm,
of the places I volunteered while studying and also in between while being also a stay-at-home mom.
mm,
So both volunteering and both the part-time jobs that I did on and off during my studies, they actually widened my perspectives about the Finnish society and about
mm,
the Finnish language, the Finnish society and the culture and the working culture. And all of this gradually, step by step, has been like the bedrock of my integration in Finland
mm.
till this
Amazing,
day.
amazing. Um, so I have interviewed quite a lot of people, and everyone says that networking, even if you know language alone cannot help you get a job in Finland. You need to actively participate in volunteer activities that you're talking about that you did. And so what do you think, is the role of networking, and what was the role of networking in your in getting at the position where you are now? And also, what do you suggest other people how to do networking in Finland?
Well, it's a well-known secret that networking is essential in Finland if you want to expand your social network, even if you're not looking for a job, but if you
Mm,
want to get to know people and if you want to feel that you belong to the society, like you need to connect with people. Otherwise, you would be like very lonely,
mm,
so to say, in Finland. So um, on my part, I would say that I have been quite active, not just because I needed a job, but because I wanted to actually understand the society that I live in. I wanted to understand how the people, like the culture, the things, the values that are important to the people in whose country I live. So these were actually some of the reasons that I started networking already when I was a stay-at-home mom.
mm,
I would go to different parents groups with my children. And at that point, I didn't understand a word of Finnish, but it did not deter me from going. I would go, and most times I'm alone, but at least I have a kid. I have my kid as my
yeah.
company, and then we're playing. And then from there, then the kids will play with other kids, and that will kind of bring moms together when both kids are playing, and then it will be an opportunity to exchange some words. And from there, you get to know each other better gradually. But this takes time, and this took time also on my part. So I would say that networking shouldn't be done just because I want a job. Because if you do it with the sole purpose of getting a job, you might actually be disappointed
Mm,
because you would not get an immediate result, or you won't even get a result at all if that's all you have in mind is that, okay, you meet somebody and then you're telling them about your need for a job and all of that. People can actually be put off by such attitude. I would advise also based on my own experience that um, networking should be an opportunity for you to actually give. You might have very little to give, but each and every one of us, we have something to give. It doesn't
mhm,
have to be monetary. It can be like telling about your country, for example, it might seem very simple or very easy, but meeting somebody and maybe the person hasn't been to my country and then the person asks, tell me about your country. The knowledge that you give to that person in a positive way can actually be something that you'll be remembered for. And then you meet this person next time somewhere else, and then they remember that, oh, this person, and then it can actually build up there. So networking is not rocket science. It doesn't happen in one day, and it doesn't actually yield fruits if you are desperate. Like if you're going for an event and all you have in your mind is that whoever I meet, I'm going to tell them that I desperately need a job. And then, Finnish people are kind of reserved and they can actually uh, withdraw when
Mm,
when they see that you're aggressive in that way, like aggressively looking for a job. It can actually make them to be a bit more reserved and withdraw. So going to networking events or going to events generally with an open mind and with a mindset that you want to give, no matter
mm,
how little, no matter how small, you think that you have, but each and every one of us will have something that we can give. So when you give more than you expect, then
mm,
you won't be disappointed if you don't meet somebody at an event who will offer you a job. And it rarely happens that you go to an event and then immediately you find somebody who gives you a job.
mm.
Of course,
Amazing.
miracles happen,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Mm. Amazing. I think what you said is totally true. But Finland, you are an employment expert now, and you deal with people from different walks of life every day. What do you think about Finnish job market? How was it when you came 13 years ago? Has it changed? I'm talking with perspective of immigrants who come here, who want to settle here for a long period of time. And do you think that Finnish job market has potential for accommodating foreigners on long-term basis, or is making steps to do that?
Definitely. I would say that every time we talk about in the news about Työvoima Mapola, which means, how shall I translate that in English?
Work, pulla? I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
like shortage of, yeah, labor
Yeah.
shortage. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we talk about that a lot in the news. And I think that even though the job market at the moment seems quite challenging, not just for immigrants, but even for native Finns, the job market is quite challenging.
Mm,
People are losing their jobs, and there are fewer jobs available at the moment when you compare to, for example, last year or the years before. So, but that doesn't mean that there is no hope.
mm,
The situation we all hope that is temporary, like the job situation at the moment. But even with this job situation, there are still people who are announcing that like people are getting new jobs, like people are moving even to better jobs and all of that. So it's relative.
mm,
But on a general basis, I would say that there is hope
mm.
for
There is,
Finland
of course.
job-wise.
Mm. So it's, and this is a very hot debate when you're sitting in a circle of people who are from immigrant background, and you start talking about this topic. So some people are very hopeful, optimistic, but some people are very negative about this, criticize the process and the things and diplomatic things going on in Finland. But what would you say to people who criticize? I mean, I usually stay on the positive side. I try to focus on positive things that don't lose hope, and I try to say that just keep applying and try different sort of things. But what would you say to people who just always criticize?
Well, uh, by criticizing and by being pessimistic, you will not make the situation better. But
Mm,
when you keep hope alive, yes, it is challenging. Yes, it is not all rosy.
mm,
But when you tell yourself that you won't give up, when you have SISU in you,
yeah,
then you
SISU.
will know that there is hope.
Yeah.
But if you eventually go to that stage that you lose hope and that you're
Mm,
criticizing everything, then I don't think that anybody would want to employ a person who is pessimistic, who
Exactly.
does not see any good thing out
Mm,
of the system.
mm,
Yes, there are challenges in Finland for immigrants and for even the natives alike. Yes, we know that the challenges are even double or twice or like even more for foreign internationals.
mm,
But that is not a reason to be critical at all times. Yes, you can express your opinions. You don't always like have to say positive things, but you can criticize um, constructively. That is different from being pessimistic and
mm,
from being critical at all times.
mm,
So I would advise internationals, immigrants, or anyone who is facing a difficult challenge,
mm.
job-wise, or even in their life in general, to keep Sisu alive, like to keep
Yeah.
hope alive, to know that it is only over when you give up. Yes,
Mm,
it's easier said than done, but actually, if you believe that you will never get a job, then you will never get a job. You won't even have the positive energy to apply. You won't even have the positive energy to go out there and meet potential employers, potential colleagues, or potential referrals.
What do you think about the term hidden jobs? Many people say that most of the jobs are not published, and if you are, networking, if you have strong networks around you, you might find jobs that are hidden. Companies might create a job just for you. So what do you think? Does that hidden job things exist?
It is not a secret that it exists in Finland. Everybody knows that
Mm,
hidden jobs by referrals exist. And I think there was statistics recently, I don't remember exactly the percentage of hidden jobs versus the jobs that are advertised, but it is really, the percentage is really high.
mm,
So, yes, most jobs are actually hidden based on research, based on statistics.
mm,
And that means that you would need to know somebody who is working at that place to recommend you.
mm,
And for foreigners, this can be even more challenging because we don't have such a strong social network. For example, those who you knew from kindergarten, from basic school, and up to university. Uh, Native borns, they have this kind of strong networks that they know somebody from the kindergarten when they were growing up who is now somewhere, and it might be a bit easier for them to reach out and say, hey, we're at this same school, this, can you help? But for us, it's even more challenging. But it doesn't mean that we have to lose hope. It means that we have to work twice as hard as those who are born here. It means that we have to put in more efforts, for example, in sharpening our Finnish language skills, in sharpening our other soft skills, other transferable skills, as well as connecting also with the locals, because you cannot overemphasize the importance of connecting with locals, whether you're employed at the moment or whether you're seeking employment, because you don't come to a place and then you isolate yourself with maybe people who are from the same culture. Yes, it
mm,
might be comfortable, but in the long term, you actually miss out a lot from what is happening around you.
mm. Okay, amazing. Great advice. Coming to the language, language is an important skill that you need to have in your CV for getting a job in Finland. But some in some podcasts we also have discussed language model of language by working language in workplace, in where there was a guest who told me that in Sweden there's a model that they recruit people from, for example, nurses from other countries, and those nurses have 6 months time to learn Swedish language, and then after 6 months they can start working and keep on learning language. But Finland doesn't have any model like this. Um, what do you think about the importance of language in Finland? And since many of the jobs and many companies have Finnish work environment, and even if their work doesn't require Finnish, they're hesitant to hire foreigners as because they think that other people won't go along well with the foreigner who is speaking English. Do you think companies should change their work language to English to hire more international talent that is already in Finland, or do international talent need to learn Finnish language so that they can be hired in those companies?
As a person who is very passionate about all languages, maybe I didn't mention that about 3 years ago, I actually co-founded an NGO, which is focused on promoting Igbo language and culture in Finland and in other European countries. That is to tell you that I'm a person who believes that mother tongue is very important and should be preserved. And you know that Finnish language is relatively quite a small language group, and you can understand why Finns want to protect their language. Me personally, I would also protect my language if I was in that position. I
Mm,
wouldn't want that foreigners would come and I would have to change my language to accommodate you. I
mm,
would want that you learn my language to some
mm,
extent, and that then we can work together. Having said that, I think that the language requirement in Finland most times is really not unnecessary, but too high when you relate it to the job that's and what is needed, what is required for doing the job. So in this regard, I would recommend, suggest that the Finnish language level be relaxed. There are some jobs which clearly does not require a native level Finnish to be able to do your job very well. But on the other hand, I would also, for example, what you talked about is really good in my opinion, because you don't expect that people move to a country and then they have the language ready. It
mm,
doesn't happen anywhere. But this kind of method that Sweden has can actually be very effective in Finland. So you give people, for example, you give people an opportunity, even though they haven't reached that native speaker level, which is not easy to reach when you are
mm,
an adult and you move to a new country. So I would suggest that Finland relaxes the language requirement for some specific tasks. Of course, there are some jobs that you need uh, sufficient Finnish language skills to carry out, because the safety of the clients and your own safety will be in danger if you don't have the required Finnish language course. But in general, I would suggest relax the language requirements for immigrants and give them an opportunity to start working and then learn on the job, because many people learn more when they learn by doing and
mm.
not just by sitting in the classroom for many hours. So relax the language requirements, give people opportunity, even though they don't have excellent Finnish language skills. But by no means, don't change your local language to accommodate people. People
Okay.
should be able to
Mm,
learn the language, but they should be given an opportunity to learn.
mm,
Because if you don't offer jobs to foreigners because they don't speak native level Finnish, where do you want them to learn it from? Give them a job, give them time, provide a conducive environment for them to improve their Finnish.
okay. Amazing. Yeah. Um, and any last tips for people who just moved to Finland or who have been living here for a long period of time and but are disappointed from the job market? Any words or any advice that you want to say?
For people who are just moving to Finland, and they actually intend to stay, even if it's for a few years in Finland, I would say start learning Finnish as soon as you can. Of course, it doesn't guarantee that you would get a job, but at least you would know that you have checked one item on your list. Because if you don't have the Finnish language, if you don't have, then it makes it even more difficult. And then there are more reasons not to
Mm,
employ the person. But when you study the Finnish language as soon as you arrive, then you actually increase your chances. And not just that, you are able to integrate better with the Finnish language. You're able to read your letters when they come to you. You don't need like to take it to your friend all the time to ask to translate the letters for you. And for those who have been here for a long time and are disappointed, I would say don't give up. Uh, and I would also want to say to them that it's not entirely your fault because, for example, where I work, there can be people who have like ticked all the items on the checklist. They have the language skills, they have the degree, they have everything that is needed to get an employment in their field, but they are still struggling. So I would say don't give up, but also widen your perspective. See how you can actually use the skills you have, for example, in another field. How you can use the soft skills you have to do something else. Like you're a researcher. And you're also doing this podcast. And I'm sure that this podcast is not directly related to your field, but you are doing this. And through this, you have gained like more skills, more knowledge, which is different from your original profession. So don't
Exactly.
just limit yourself to one skill, to one profession that
Mhm.
you have studied and that you are used to, but be open-minded, widen your perspective, and be on the lookout for opportunities. And most importantly, opportunities will not come to knock on your door. You have to go out there and seek opportunities.
Mhm. Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hope. And I got to learn a lot from you as well today. And I hope other listeners who are listening this, they would also get to learn a lot from your journey and from your advices and suggestions as well. So, at this note, I would end the podcast. And for those who are listening, please subscribe and share in your circle if you're liking my effort. And the only intent is to help foreigners who are living in Finland by listening to other stories of immigrants who have achieved something in Finland. So, I hope this would be helpful for many of us. And let's help each other. Thank you. See you again. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.